So thanks a lot for the opportunity to speak about EUMETSAT activities and the opportunities for the Africans. So thanks also, I think Cecilia and Alex have already mentioned quite a lot of things. There will be also part of my presentation that will be related to the action documents number one, especially the one related to severe weather early warning that I will also mention here. But I will start by providing you a little bit more of general information on EUMETSAT and our activities in Africa. So first, EUMETSAT was created almost 40 years ago with a main objective to operate meteorological satellites for the observation of weather and climate from space. We were the first meteosat were launched by European space agencies, and the user communities, the Met services, they like it so much that they decided to create EUMETSAT in order to ensure continuity of this type of data for operational use. So our mandate is clearly more towards making sure that the users are satisfied for doing their daily job. And we are actually in all our projects cooperating very closely with the European Space Agency for the building of the satellites, and we take care of making sure that the data reach the users not only in Europe but worldwide, and including obviously in Africa. So this is EUMETSAT. Some news, because since 40 years we have been evolving a bit, and recently there was quite an important milestone. Is that we have a new generation of METEOSAT satellites. These are the satellites in geostationary orbit that provide an image of over Europe and Africa now every 10 minutes. And we have just released at the beginning of March, so 1 month ago, the first MTG data on our EUMETCAST Africa data dissemination channel, so which is a satellite-based telecom to make sure that the data reach the users with very low latency. So there is basically between the images taken by the satellite until it reach the users, it's less than 10 minutes. So this is one of the main requirements that we have from our user communities, including in Africa. We have been already cooperating on an ongoing project that is funded by the EU DG INPA and implemented. Notably, there were several implementing entities, but for what it concerned the reception of the meteorological satellite data is the African Union Commission implementing this part. And there is currently under deployments this what we call PUMA 2025 reception stations is the station you see on the right-hand side of this graph, which are being deployed in all national meteorological services, and it provides real-time access to the satellite image, plus various tools in order to interpret those data and to be able to provide, to assist weather forecast and to provide warning. And this will be also reinforced in the years to come with through the EU-Africa Space Partnership Program. One of the characteristics also at EUMETSAT, this new generation, METEOSAT third generations, and we'll have also a new generation of polar orbiting satellites, will provide data over Africa until beyond 2040. So it's really a long-term investment, and any type of developments, application that you build on this type of data are valid, I would say, for the long term. EUMETSAT has also a role to play in Copernicus, and basically what we do in Copernicus is a little bit similar to what we do for the meteorological communities by providing satellite data on an operational basis to people doing some of the Copernicus services, being the atmosphere service, being the climate change service, or the emergency services. So the main role of EUMETSAT is to operate some of the Sentinel space segment data from satellite from Copernicus, and to also gather third-party data that, notably the EUMETSAT-1 actually, that served these Copernicus services to provide not only the monitoring, but also forecast of some atmospheric, ocean, or climate change parameters. Yeah, forget to mention the ocean. This is obviously one of the important service in Copernicus. And EUMETSAT is, I would say, the prime provider of satellite data for this ocean, atmosphere, and climate change service. We have quite a long-term partnership with Africa, which builds on several pillars. So I would say that EUMETSAT with Africa, we are not working on project-based. We are working as an operational agencies, like providing continuous access to our satellite data. And this cooperation is framed within several institutions. So obviously the EU-Africa partnership, but also there is quite a lot of recommendations that comes from the World Meteorological Organization. So being the meteorological communities or hydrological communities that provides inputs for us to ensure that we provide the best data, the best way possible to our African colleagues. So we have several assets for Africa. The one is, as I mentioned already, the long-term coverage. Our satellite data are there. It's new generations. There will be several satellites to cover data needs until beyond 2040, with actually a very favorable data policies for African countries, which is free of charge for most of the usages. In terms of data access, we work quite a lot. This is still the basis, but you will see that we are diversifying also our data access mechanism. But I will say for operational use, this EUMETCAS Africa is a data push system, which is independent from internet and provide a high level of reliability in terms of access to the data. So here we are speaking something like 99.5% access continuity of the satellite data thanks to this type of system, including in some of the most remote or less well-connected countries, some landlocked countries, especially in Africa. So this EUMETCAS is still and remains the primary way for us to distribute our data. We also actually, through this system, distribute some of the Copernicus data, subset of it, but we have, you will see later on, diversifying also the type of access. Training, we'll come back on that because of, you see, this working group was also very much focusing on training. So our approach is to work with 4 training centers in Africa that are where we mainly train the trainers, support the development of training materials, and those training centers are providing through their personnel trainings to the people in their region. So really building a training infrastructure with human and trainers and with a lot of training materials made available. We have also a strong pillar, which is the user engagements with help desk, user forum, expert group that we consult regularly in order to fine-tune our activities, and also our contribution to capacity building initiative and project, notably those funded by DG INPA. So DG INPA fixed the priorities, and when our satellite data could support those priorities, I would say DG INPA fixed the priorities in close consultation with the African colleagues. And once, if in some of those projects our satellite data can play a role, we are happily contributing and supporting this project during their implementation. I was speaking about data access. I already mentioned EUMETCAS Africa. We have this new generation of satellites is raising a new challenge because we have actually, like for Copernicus, actually, I think ESA with Sentinel-1 and 2 have faced already this challenge that is not possible anymore for users to download all the data. So we have developed several different access mechanisms. So first, we have also through cloud. So first, we pre-process some data at EUMETSAT for Africa instead of sending the raw data. And this priority product have been selected by the African experts. So we do that, if you want, on their behalf. But as part of the project that Cecilia mentions, we will also support the creation by the African Union with the African Ministerial Conference on Metrology, the setting up of the AMSAF, the African Meteorological Satellite Application Facilities. The ideas will be that some of the basic processing will be done in Africa for answering African needs. And we will be working notably for the nowcasting, but also for probably in the future for other application, hydrology, air quality, etc., to strengthen these African meteorological satellite application facilities that will be set up by the African Union. We are also having different supplementary data access mechanisms. One of them is the EUMETSAT terrestrial, which is another type of data push, but building on the National Research and Education Network. And then I would like to mention also is another EU-Africa initiative, which is called Africa Connect, which is there to create linkages between the European university internet network, if you want, and the African one to ease the transfer of data. And we are also working on cloud-based processing. So that means to allow African regional centers or national centers to run their own processing based on our satellite data in a cloud rather than downloading all the data. Training. So we have basically for all what is meteorology and climate, we are building really on these 4 regional training centers located in Morocco, Niger, Kenya, and South Africa. We develop, as I've mentioned, training material that are regularly updated. There is one I could refer notably to ASMET for that, which has been set up with those 4 centers, which is a network that provide also online training material for all what is related to satellite meteorology and climatology. For the more specific training on marine applications, so the partnership here is more with the GMS Africa Marine Centers in Ghana and South Africa, where we are spending quite a lot of time with them in order to support the building of training materials, also in partnership with the Copernicus Mercator Marine Environment Monitoring Service, which is run by Mercator Ocean International, where we work here hand in hand in order to provide our colleagues in Africa with all the support they need to build their own training program for the countries in their regions as part of GMS and Africa. And we have also, as I mentioned before, a strong user engagement policy to be always listening to our user communities and improving the services or the data we are providing. So this is a small zoom in the action document 1 that Cecilia mentions before, and more the objective 2, which is there to strengthen the African capacities to access space-based data for early warning and disaster risk reductions. Here we are teaming up with the ECMWF, the European Center for Medium Range Forecast, which is basically a center providing weather forecasts globally. EUMETSAT is only providing satellite data, so we are only monitoring what is going on, and ECMWF is looking to the future based on this data, and also through a strong and long partnership with the African Union Commission, who has a key role to play in these particular components to make sure that what we do is very well linked to the African disaster risk reductions strategies and activities, notably through the AMEWAS, the African Multi-Hazard Early Warning System. So on this one, EUMETSAT will work closely with our African colleagues in order to consolidate the data access infrastructure that I just mentioned, to establish the AMSAF, and also there will be strong training component building on the training centers I'm mentioning, but also opening up to universities to join forces in order to provide the best possible training to use satellites for early warning. Obviously, this project is building on a very long partnership with Africa, supported by EU investments through various projects that I've listed in this slide. The AMSAF Just one word maybe, because this is quite a new acronym in the landscape. So this is born from an African request from the EUMETSAT to not be only user of satellite data, but to have also capacities to generate their own products, maybe in the future to have their own meteorological satellites. Some African nations are already sending some small sat with some that are aimed to support also weather and climate. So obviously this is also growing in Africa, and we are happy, very happy with this. The initial focus of the first AMSAF will be on nowcasting. So this is actually monitoring of severe weather events to fill the gap between weather forecasts that are provided normally every 6 or 12 hours. But in between, you need to monitor, especially rapidly developing thunderstorms, phenomena that can have a huge impact on the ground. And we will work also closely with the AUC and our African colleagues to provide AMSAF roadmap and initial studies for that. In conclusion, the main opportunities that EUMETSAT offers for Africa is not really through project, but is really the long-term operational availability of satellite data. You can really build on that and have long-term return on your investments. For training, we've really focused on strengthening the training infrastructure, human and regional centers, and we work by user communities, so one for meteo and climate, one for marine, etc. Really working very closely with the user community on that one. The funding, the backbone, I would say, is provided by EUMETSAT member states and the Copernicus delegation agreements. These are funding the data access mechanism, obviously the satellites, the data access mechanism for all users worldwide, but some action also specific for Africa, like the EUMETCAS Africa. And otherwise, when we run projects, this is mainly through funding agencies like DG INPA and partners that are providing resources, not necessarily to EUMETSAT, but mainly to support the user community in Africa in strengthening the user infrastructure for the access and processing of the satellite data. Voilà, with this, I close my presentation, and obviously I remain open for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vincent. I think we have a question here where the AMSAF will be centered. Is there already?
Yes, first, the governance of the AMSAF is something discussed at the African Union Commissions. EUMETSAT is only supporting the transfer of knowledge. We have some SAF in Europe, so we have some model of how they work in Europe. It's up to Africa to decide exactly how they will do the governance and the structure. So in Europe, it's a network of centers. So a SAF is not located in a specific institution, it's always a network of institutions working on it. For the very first AMSAF nowcasting, it has been already selected that is institution in Africa having already a regional mandate to provide forecasts for severe weather. To provide it. So it will be basically the Met Service in Senegal, in Cameroon, in Kenya, in South Africa that will build this very first component of the AMSAF at technical level. So we'll deploy the equipments, knowledge in there for serving the regions, but the governance will be established by AUC through their usual decision bodies.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that's a very complete answer. But Brighton, if any more doubts, please don't be shy and just text it in the chat. So thank you, Vincent.